You okay in there, buddy? I'm coming in. What the? Be careful what you wish for. Is this what you've been doing in here for the past hour?
Yes.
Is this about Spider-Man Homecoming?
I thought this is what I wanted. I thought that if Spidey was in a real Marvel movie, it would be the best one yet.
Okay, so just to be perfectly clear, you did not want a grounded Spider-Man movie? Because besides Ant-Man, this was the most personal Marvel movie yet, as well as one of the funniest. I could not believe those crappy TV broadcast bits. It was exactly my sense of humor.
It didn't even come close to topping the Raimi movies.
Well, at least it was better than the last reboot.
The last reboot. Think of what you're saying. They've rebooted these movies so many times that it's all just become completely diluted. I mean, even the last Amazing Spider-Man movie felt like a reboot because it was so different than the first.
Well, I don't think that'll happen again. I mean, this Spider-Man felt very focused, like they actually know what they're doing with him this time around.
I don't know if this is the Spider-Man that I want to spend the next decade with. Wasn't really a big fan of the suit. I still think Amazing Spider-Man 2 had the best suit. Also, Tom Holland really didn't blow me away, and I can't say that I'm that jazzed for Scorpion in the sequel. Man, the Spider-Man movies that came before this really fucked things up.
How do you mean?
I mean, the impact of what's been done before is so evident. And this started in The Amazing Spider-Man when we couldn't even get with great power comes great responsibility because they'd already done it. And now this movie's taking that so far that there basically is no Uncle Ben, and then a random character is revealed to be MJ, just like the throwaway of Robin in The Dark Knight Rises, and none of this is being done to actually benefit the story. I mean, after 5 movies, they've exhausted every love interest, every villain, every location. God forbid we see Spider-Man swinging around Times Square again just because we've seen it before. How crazy would that be? Oh, I've got an idea. Let's take him to Washington, D.C. Classic Spider-Man climbing up the Washington Monument.
Well, Spider-Man's never been on the Staten Island ferry before. I thought that was pretty cool. And he even made his way out to the suburbs, which led to one of the funniest moments in the movie when he's on the golf course and can't swing from anything. And I thought the big finale taking place at Coney Island was a really surprising choice.
How do you bring the big finale in a Spider-Man movie to Coney Island and not have the fight take place on or around any of the rides? They just land on the beach and that's it.
That's it? Their fight was exactly what I always want out of these superhero movies. A more personal battle between two characters that we actually have gotten to know and care about, as opposed to just tons of civilians in trouble because the city's gonna explode or whatever bullshit. I don't care about that stuff. In Spider-Man Homecoming, for me, the stakes were at their highest when they were at their lowest.
Give me an example.
In this movie, I cared more about Peter Parker than Spider-Man. Like, the scene where he's asking Liz to the dance had me on the edge of my seat way more than any of the big Spidey scenes.
Well, since they barely even gave us any big swinging scenes, which, by the way, in even the worst Spider-Man movie, those are some of my favorite scenes. I really wish they had just completely leaned in on the Peter Parker stuff. They should have stayed at the dance. I know that the title is also a nod to the fact that Marvel gets to use Spider-Man, but calling it Homecoming really got me hyped up on the idea that the final battle might take place at a dance.
I thought that they kept the homecoming dance involved just enough by cutting back and forth between Spidey and Ned helping him from the school library.
Speaking of Ned, I really hate this thing that they do in the newer movies where everybody and their mother knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Totally kills the suspense that was so great in the Raimi movies. Peter Parker keeping Spider-Man a secret from his loved ones and his enemies is so important to his character. I mean, remember in Spider-Man 2 when Harry found out who Spider-Man really was? It was incredible. Now it's just a big joke. It was bad enough that his friend found out, like, a third of the way into this movie, but the bit with Aunt May at the end? Ugh.
I thought there was plenty of suspense in the movie. Actually, more than I was expecting. The big reveal of Toombs being Liz's father, I didn't see that coming at all. I was not expecting such a big twist in this movie, and the scene with them in the car outside the dance after Liz leaves was fantastic. Tom Holland and Michael Keaton really sold it. And as much as I thought Tom Holland was fun in the role, Michael Keaton was even better. But the whole cast was great. I didn't think there was a weak link in the chain. And actually, the kid that played Ned could have gotten annoying really quick, but I thought that he was hysterical, especially with that hat. Oh, and of course, we can't possibly forget the other big cast member, Robert Downey Jr.
Oh yeah, as if I could possibly forget that Iron Man is in this movie.
Nowhere near as much as I expected, though. I thought he was going to be a lot more in the way.
Iron Man himself might not have been in the movie as much, but they basically turned Spider-Man into Iron Man Jr. Like, it's not enough that he shoots webs and swings around the city. Now he's got to have a fucking drone built into his chest and a copy of Jarvis to basically replace his Spidey sense.
Yeah, but I really liked some of the stuff that the inclusion of the Avengers brought to the table. Like the father figure stuff with Tony, I thought was really good, and the Captain America cameos were brilliant, especially the one after the credits. One of the best post-credit scenes ever.
The influence that the Marvel Cinematic Universe has on this movie felt eerily similar to the influence that Sony had on The Amazing Spider-Man. The reason that these movies can't come close to the Raimi movies is because he was allowed to actually have a singular vision and just make a damn movie. Well, until Spider-Man 3, when Sony got their grubby little paws on everything. And it got even worse in The Amazing Spider-Man when they hired Mark Webb to just push him around and do whatever they want. It feels like Marvel's doing the same thing with John Watts.
Well, at least Marvel is better at it than Sony is, okay? And honestly, I thought John Watts did a really good job overall, especially considering he had a lot of shit to juggle making this movie. He had to make sure he didn't make the same movie we've seen before. He had to make sure everything fit properly into the MCU, and I think he did the best possible job he could have done. I really think that no matter what, you couldn't have been satisfied, mostly due to things outside of the movie itself.
I really wish I didn't know as much about what goes on behind the scenes, man. I really try to avoid movie news, but it just creeps in and ruins the fun for me. And you know what? Whether or not Marvel is better at making a product than Sony, it still just feels like another Marvel movie, as opposed to a unique and memorable take on Spidey.
Is another Marvel movie such a bad thing if they make good movies?
I guess I just hold Spider-Man to a higher regard. What should have been the biggest Marvel event since the first Avengers just didn't feel special enough.
Well, while you stay here and mope around, I'm gonna go see it again.